That's it for today's So I'll do it again. The pledge.
Shh, who's making that noise?
Hey, it's #1 best-selling author and motivational speaker Erik Qualman. Most of you know me as Equalman. Welcome to today's 7 Super Tips Show. This is the show to unlock and unleash your inner superpower. Each week we bring you 7 super tips from the world's top performers and thought leaders. Today's guest used to wear glasses a lot like these, and he needs no introduction. It's Microsoft founder Bill Gates. But the most impressive thing to me about Gates is what he's done after he left Microsoft. He started the Gates Foundation, which is helping billions of people across the globe. So without further ado, the man that needs no introduction, Mr. Bill Gates.
In dire situations, optimism fuels innovation and leads to new approaches that eliminate suffering. But if you never really see the people who are suffering, your optimism can't help them. You will never change their world. And that brings me to what I see as a paradox. The modern world is an incredible source of innovation, and Stanford stands at the center of that, creating new companies, new schools of thought, prize-winning professors, inspired art and literature, miracle drugs, and amazing graduates. Whether you're a scientist with a new discovery or working in the trenches to understand the needs of the most marginalized, you are advancing amazing breakthroughs in what human beings can do for each other. At the same time, if you ask people across the United States, is the future going to be better than the past? Most say no. My kids will be worse off than I am. They think innovation won't make the world better for them or their children. So who's right? The people who say innovation will create new possibilities and make the world better? Or the people who see a trend toward inequality and a decline in opportunity and don't think innovation will change that? The pessimists are wrong, in my view, but they're not crazy. If innovation is purely market-driven and we don't focus on the big inequities, then we could have amazing advances and inventions that leave the world even more divided. We won't improve public schools. We won't cure malaria. We won't end poverty. We won't develop the innovations poor farmers need to grow food in a changing climate. If our optimism doesn't address the problems that affect so many of our fellow human beings, then our optimism needs more empathy. If empathy channels our optimism, we will see the poverty and the disease and the poor schools. We will answer with our innovations, and we will surprise the pessimists.
You're going to spend the next 20 years of your life trying to eradicate disease, yes?
Yep.
That's your mission.
That'll be the majority of my time.
Starting with polio.
Get it done by 2018.
Tuberculosis.
That one, we'll have to see how the tools go. The current tools are not good enough to do an eradication. They're good enough to reduce the deaths very dramatically, but we need a few better tools that'll take probably 6 or 7 years.
Malaria?
Malaria is the one that the tools are being invented now, 15 or perhaps even 20 years, but start to really shrink that map. We've competed against various forms of Unix over the years, and Linux is growing in popularity and definitely a competitor.
How threatening a competitor?
Well, it's a competitor we take very seriously. I think, part of Microsoft's success is that we don't underestimate the importance of the work that other companies are doing, and so we look out. We think, are there aspects of that are best practices? For example, online support, some of the community things that are done around Linux are done very well. So we're thinking about it, making sure that our innovation we'll make sure that our value and our leadership stays in front. Well, I'm a weird dropout because I take college courses all the time. I love learning company courses and things, so I loved being a student. And there were smart people around, and you know, they fed you, and they gave you these nice grades that made you feel smart. So I feel it was unfortunate that I didn't get to stay there, but I don't think I missed any knowledge because, you know, whatever I needed to learn, I was still in a learning mode. Well, nerd means a lot of things. I'm somebody who can sit and read a book about science for hours on end, and you know, I don't mind being labeled as somebody who finds that interesting. When you have the level of success that we've had, when you have a business that's important as this with this many competitors, you're going to have people saying some nasty things, and so you have to learn a little bit not to take it too personally. I think there's two models, two ways that we're going to get more of the brightest minds focused on the important problems. One is that we'll get more people to take on these problems in their full-time work. Now that'll be a minority. You know, maybe we'll get that from 3% up to 10%. And it doesn't mean just going to work for nonprofits. You can go to work in businesses that are willing to apply some of their resources to these things. In fact, some of the most innovative work is being done by large and small businesses that are focusing on these things. So that's the full-time approach, and the more people who do that, the better. And as you say, I did not do that, so those people get an A. And there's a second model, which is that you're pursuing something, and hopefully your full-time work is socially beneficial, but you know, maybe not in the extreme that these particular problems are focused on. But in terms of your donating time, your political voice, some of your donations, and perhaps as you get later in your career and you have extra time, like I was lucky enough to do, then even more of your time being given to those things. And so if we can get from, say, 20% of people who follow that model to, say, 60% of people follow that model, that actually in absolute will be a greater impact than even the full-time piece. Per person, the full-time piece is the big win. But you know, in Warren's case, he's decided to continue doing what he likes to do, and he's delegated the actual time in terms of who the money should go to our foundation. And I think that's, you know, an absolutely great model. I think Warren could apply himself to these problems, but you know, he figures that he'll use this delegation thing that he's very good at in all of his work to make sure that it gets done. So it's very fair to say there are different models, and the just spend your life on these problems model won't be the path that a super high percentage will take. When I make a mistake, you know, and my thinking is sloppy, I like to be very hard on myself. Like, that is so stupid. How could you not see how those pieces fit together? And that way that you're, you know, very disciplined yourself and careful about your thinking, you don't want it to extend out to when other people may not get something quite as quickly. It's like, oh, you know, how come you don't get this thing?
That's it for today's 7 Super Tips with Microsoft founder Bill Gates. I'm your host, Erik Qualman. Most of you know me as Equalman. Thank you for watching today's show, the show designed to unlock and unleash your inner superpower. If you want to receive more 7 Super Tips from the world's top performers and thought leaders, make sure you hit the subscribe button below. And remember, for all you super friends out there, until the next time, super friends, I guess that's fine. That pledge is all around those billionaires donating the majority,